behalf of the Natural Yoga Treatment movement, I'd like to welcome everybody, and especially our guest speaker tonight. And I will just introduce her to all of you. Her name is Kanika, Kate Kazony. And Kanika is a natural sustenance researcher. She lives in the tropical rainforest of Australia, and she identifies herself through the family's wellness center. It's a retreat center, and she's called their Greenie Yogini. And she specializes in educating visitors wanting to make the change into permaculture yogic lifestyle. Since the pandemic, Kanika's had keen interest in intensive scrutiny of scientific papers that have led her to applying the recent microcosmos findings to uncover the inner workings of natural health and well-being. So,
can I add something?
Go ahead.
And namaskar. And that's Kanika and her husband Madhu. They have been working many years making naturopathy programs, detox programs. I have no idea how many people they've helped, but it's been a very big number. And they've been developing their buildings on their it's like a miniature master unit. Yeah, and it's very beautiful. And I've been going there until COVID. I was going there every year, and we were making programs together, and that will very soon resume, I hope. So she has lots of expertise.
Right. Okay, so we will request Sister Kanika to take it away.
Namaskar. Thanks so much for having me. It's always a pleasure to be with the wellness group, and it's always lovely to see familiar faces. So thank you everybody for coming along to talk about natural treatments. So before I start on the slideshow about natural treatments, I just want to talk a little bit about what it's been like living to create a space of natural treatments. As Dada mentioned, we live in the rainforest, and the first thing that happened when Modhu, my husband, and I came here is that we both thought very deeply about how to utilize the environment and create a space of balance, understanding that when there's balance, particularly in the 5 fundamental factors, so in the earth, the water, the air, the light, and the ether, when those are in balance, it creates not just harmony, but also beauty. So very much we studied Japanese architecture and Japanese gardens, and just to understand what is it that creates that feeling of wellness. And a lot of it has to do with symmetry and balance, composition, and a lot of it also has to do with the energy of plants, animals, the environment being taken care of. And my husband Madhu and I have had a long time talking about what is the essence of that balance. What is it that creates a feeling of wellness inside nature, and how can we utilize that in our lives? So this is what we've come up with. And I'll just share screen if I'm allowed. Let's see. Yep.
Yeah, you're allowed.
I am. And I'll have to put that on to play. Let's see. Is that okay for you?
Looks
can
good.
see that nicely?
Yeah.
Okay, so today we're going to talk about natural treatments. And let me just see if it's going. Yes, it's going to let me do it. So the healing power of nature. The healing power of nature cures disease, and medicine only helps nature. So this is one distilled quote of Baba's, and he goes on to talk about how medicine can help to speed up that process. And I did put out a whole write-up about how medicine historically came from people first using water and sunlight and earth for healing, and then eventually starting to use plants, and then eventually using different systems with plants until allopathic, homeopathic, naturopathic medicines became injections and creams and so on. So Baba's written a whole piece about that, which is on our WhatsApp group if anyone's interested to follow that. But essentially everything comes right back down to nature. Whether we've boiled it, we've squeezed it, we're rubbing it on, we're ingesting it, ultimately we're working with one or the other elements of nature, including plants. And so, and here they are. And this is, I like this image very much because it shows the wellness of earth and water, light, heat, and air in the way these kids are playing around inside of it. And that's the vibration or the feeling that personally I think is the most healing, is when not only is it beautiful, but it also feels delightful. And here's, you can see that happening. So Baba wrote a little bit about, because at the moment we've come up inside our group, particularly we've been focusing on naturopathy as a name for our yogic treatments. And Baba had this little discourse about that. And he said, naturopaths, this is a generalization, do not believe in using medicine. They think that it's possible to cure patients through the gifts of nature only, through earth, water, light, heat, and air, together with a proper diet. I do not deny that this is possible, but it is also often difficult to gradually and completely attune the body to nature. And so I think personally that this is the, I just wanted to say a little bit about that we're looking to gradually attune our body to nature. So we'll go through those different elements, each one at a time, and how Baba suggests that we do that. But the first thing of that is, why do we want to gradually attune our body to nature on a very deep level? Why are we doing that? And why are we feeling that that attunement is going to help cure diseases? So just from my own introspection on that, and I'll be asking questions very soon, but I'd like each one of you to think about that. Generally in Western society, particularly, we look at things like earth as being dirty. We want to purify our water. Sunlight, in Australia, there's a whole system to put creams on so that we don't get the sun on our skin. And they're the main ones, I would say. And then we live in houses where the air temperature is regulated with air conditioning or heaters. So traditionally, we've been brought up to move further and further and further away from nature and to control our atmospheres and to find regulation only inside our bodies, not in attunement with nature. So this very concept that Baba's putting forward, and that he actually ultimately, when talking about things like master units and living in nature, he's actually said that, you know, as people, the cities become more and more unlivable, we'll be moving back more and more into nature. So one of the big tasks that Model and I have done, not only with healing, but also been getting people's mind to accept that they will be living with the rain and the rocks and weeds and gardens that need work in them, and in our case also snakes, as well as koala bears and spiders and insects, and also disease. So there's a whole realm that goes with living inside of nature. And I wanted just to emphasize that before we go diving into how to use nature, is that what I was talking about is our bodies becoming balanced with the essence of nature and what that might mean and look like. And so going back to this page here, excuse me, I have to just wiggle things around a bit. And so people should recognize that medicine doesn't cure disease, rather nature cures disease with the help of the body's own healing power. And medicine only helps to accelerate the activity and the speed of that healing process. So I find this very interesting and very fundamental in the whole concept of the work that we do with natural treatments. And we'll have a look at that as we go along. So the first one that Baba brings up is drinking water. So there's 7 aspects of health that Baba talks about. And the first one that we're looking at is drinking water. And these are all in the appendix to Yogic Treatments. So water is medicine for all diseases. Truly, all types of disease can be relieved of if one knows how to use water properly. Now, he put that underneath the heading of drinking water. So on that thought, just to review what we already know, lemon water is natural water is very good. Lemon water, Baba even says, even a little bit better than natural water. Lemon water is fantastic. And also we found that with a number of diseases that we work to cure, and in between when we're doing fasting days, particularly when people are getting tired, coconut water is incredibly helpful as well. So they're the 3 most subtle forms of water drinking that we use, particularly here and through the tropics. And then why is water helpful? So this is a bit of a review, and this is the way that I certainly treat it, is that every cell in our bodies a bit like a raisin that should be like a grape. And because of the way that we have been taught not to drink water, it's only recently that we're starting to learn how to drink water, but because even the studies that say that at the moment they're talking about 2 liters a day is adequate. 2 liters a day is adequate in the studies that are looking at the studies of where that amount came from. The talk is that 2 liters a day was written up saying that that would be enough to just stop you from becoming very, very sick if you don't drink. So actually, the recent studies are talking about 3.2 liters for women and sitting just up around 4 liters for men per day in a sedentary situation, because the amount that we urinate out each day is up to 1.5 liters, and the amount that we lose with our breath each day, even without running around, is still another liter. So in order for the bodily functions to work, we need to drink maximum or a very good amount of water, never all at once, but slowly spaced out through the day. And that is a bit of a review on what certainly our general teaching is about. The way that I describe that to people and why that's a good thing is, again, I'm jumping back and forward between pages, but I'll go back to that, is because on the right hand side you can see that, well, first of all, if we're not drinking regularly enough, it's like pouring water onto raisins. If your cells are dehydrated and you're not continually working to get the intercellular fluid surrounding the cells regularly, what will happen is the cells will stay dehydrated and the water will pass through quickly. And my experience has been that's why many times when people start drinking water, they need to urinate often and often and often. And it's not until really 3 weeks of steady, solid building up the fluid around the cells do you get these impact what's happening in the top right-hand corner, and then eventually to the bottom right-hand of the screen, you start to see that the cells eventually rehydrate and they plump up. So the plumping up is what we want to get to that point where there's enough intercellular fluid around the cells so that the cells are not being depleted when that fluid's being needed elsewhere. So let's have a look at some of the questions around that. And I think I've just answered that first one, but what internal functions of the body depend upon liquid balance, and how are these maintained by drinking water? And then the next one is, knowing that water is made of H2O, which is hydrogen and oxygen, what other molecular and atomic particles could water be carrying through the body systems? So I'll let you just think about that. And the third question that we're going to explore is, why is sadhana by a waterfall often a powerful experience that sadhakas prefer. So let me just pull myself out of here and ask you those questions. So the first one was, how or what internal functions of the body depend upon liquid balance? And how are these maintained by drinking water? So anybody who has graduated would like to answer that. If you just want to raise your hand. To put it really simply, why is it important to drink water? Why is it important for our bodies to keep that practice up as a number one practice? Okay, Dada.
So many, in fact, almost all of the say functions of the body require water for them to efficiently carry it out, whether it's digestion, elimination, assimilation, breaking down or building up materials that we've ingested. So water is fundamental to every process. It's kind of like the lubricant that makes everything work in the body.
Yeah, beautiful. Anybody else got any answers on that one? Thank you, Dada. It's the lubricant of the body.
Makes blood.
It makes blood.
Yeah, makes
Yes.
blood, definitely. I didn't realize I was unmuted. Okay. Yeah, and it also keeps this tension in the body between, I guess, between the nerves and all the vessels to keep that balance. You know, we all know when the moon is full, there is definitely a pull. And I think there's all that movement within our intercellular structures to have, and the water is that balance, I suppose, besides making blood.
Beautiful, thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah. So it helps with the movement through the nervous system, through the blood system, as well as helping in the formation of blood. Anybody else?
Hydrate the skin.
Oh, let's ask Ambika. Ambika, let me hear you a little bit more.
It's good for the skin. It hydrates the skin.
Okay, skin hydration. Yeah, your earphone's not working very well, but I got it. Skin hydration. Thank you. And on skin hydration, can anybody else also just take that one step further? When the skin is well hydrated, actually, you know, how do we use our skin, and what function does liquid have with the skin?
Is it to get rid of toxins?
Yeah.
Yeah. So the water, if you have a lot of water, you'll be getting rid of toxins through the skin and through waste products.
Okay. And when we do that through the skin, how do we do that?
Sweat.
We're sweating.
Yeah.
Okay. Very good. So we're sweating. Now, there's one other thing that sweat does for our body. Can anyone think what that might be? In order to sweat, what happens to our body? Something fundamental changes.
We heat up, so the sweat cools us down.
Yeah.
We heat up.
Sweat
So
cools us
water, sweat cools us down. And so ultimately, water also helps us very much with our body temperatures. And for those of you who have ever had sunstroke and or got hypothermia in the cold, then the importance of body temperature, it is quite vital. I lived for some time in Mongolia, for example, and it was known that in the middle of winter, if you were outside for more than 20 minutes, you would freeze, dust blanket. So the body had enough, and water is a fantastic retainer of warmth, as well as a great coolant. So in both cases, water is one of those incredible elements that has the ability to, well, if you ever have a hot water bottle in bed at night, you know it will last for many, many hours, longer than a hot potato. So water has the ability to maintain temperature very, very beautifully. And that's a very important thing for our bodies, to run in between that range of temperatures. Okay, anybody else got anything else on why water is important?
I'm sure you got a lot of questions. You can go on.
Okay.
A lot of questions.
Yeah, I have got a lot of questions, but there is one thing I want to explain that is quite important about water also, and this is that it's found that the intercellular fluid, if the body's doing a function and water is needed for it, for example, digestion, and this is quite important to understand, as different organs of the body hold a certain amount of water. For example, the brain is 80% water, and the lungs are also similar, around between 70 and 80% water. If at the time of digestion you need 2.5 liters of water to help from the beginning, from when the salivary glands are used, all the way through, depending on what kind of food you're eating, then the body's going to look for water to do that job. So what happens is it starts, if there's not enough water inside the system, if you like, so inside the digestive system already available in the salivary glands and so on, the water's got to come from somewhere. And quite often what happens, just like, I'll just finish it first, then I'll say, for example. So what happens is the body will steal water from places where it's not needed as much. For example, when we're eating, a lot of us don't try to think. Unless you're one of those people who tries to study and eat at the same time, it's quite difficult to do. So what happens is basically the brain can rest, if you like, during eating time. Hence, a lot of people don't understand that when they're eating or just after eating, they get a headache. It's not to do with allergy of the food or whatever. It's to do with they're just dehydrated. And so during the time of eating, the body has whipped away water from different parts of the body and used it in the digestive process. Hence, particularly the brain, if there's not a lot of water around, that's a good place to take it when there's no emergency happening. Or, well, the emergency of digestion is more important than thinking at that point in time. So we can lose water from different organs in the body in order to do other functions. It's very similar to what happens in the body when we get a really big, strong burst of adrenaline, and suddenly the body stops doing what it normally does, for example, digest, and all of the energy of the body goes into the extremities and we get ready to fight or run. Our body pumps through the muscles and all the sugars of the body come out from the organs and into the extremities to save our lives, for example. That's the fight and flight response. So the body's got these ways of working that when things are not all kept in balance in the meantime, in between time, when a function has to happen like eating or fight and flight or whatever, then the body borrows from other parts. So to keep our body optimally to the optimum level of hydration all the time is extremely important. So I hope that helps with that question. And the next question that came up was, aside from hydrogen and oxygen, what other molecular and atomic particles could water be carrying through the body system? Anybody got any idea just about the different molecular structures that our body is made up of? Anybody want to take a guess on that one?
Water carries information too, is that correct?
That's a beautiful idea, thank you. I really like that, Keshiva. Yes, water does traditionally also carry information and body information as well. So
And-
that means the nervous system, the glandular system, the lymphatic system, yeah.
And since you mentioned microvita,
Mm.
any questions? Microvita
Mm.
could be in that mix as well. Well, lots of it, I suppose.
So the microorganisms, including viruses,
Yes.
which Baba, talks about as being microvita. Beautiful. Anybody else got anything on that? Okay, so let's have a quick look at those answers.
Dada, you want to
And
say? Dada Dhammavedananda, you want to say?
Dada, go ahead.
I mean, water can help to facilitate all kinds of minerals moving throughout the body.
Mhm.
So, body requires, well, I don't know how many minerals, but it's a huge number. You've got, I mean, you have minute amounts and you have big amounts of minerals. For example, we need calcium, and we need, and then there's the minerals which can disturb, which can help. We need potassium, and then we need minute amounts for, so things are there, and water is facilitating all of that.
Yeah, absolutely. So the
Not
ones
the
that
only, not the,
Dada, you broke up a little bit then. Could you just say that again?
I said, of course, it is not the only means of transport. So, but it is one of the most vital means.
Yeah. So those answers are that the intracellular balance, the one that we just talked about, and the extracellular balance, so the systems for the blood, the nerves, the digestion, reproduction, immune system, the skin, and the health of our microbiome, all of those are managed by water. And what Baba says about it is to maintain the internal functions of the body without hindrance, and to maintain the internal liquid balance, everyone should drink a sufficient quantity of water each day. And so here are some of the microbiome that live inside our body, and all of these are also moving through liquid. The Baba calls it the cytoplasm, or the protoplasm of each cell, which is also liquid. And that's why the cellular balance is really important. And just touching on the microbiome, because it's just been brought up, thank you. Through our body, we have a large amount of microbiome that sit inside every single system. So at the moment, generally, what's being talked about most of all is inside the stomach and inside the digestive system. But it's important to understand also through the I want to say the urinary tract is the easiest. So there's viruses that are living inside our urinary organs. There's also all through our skin, all through the mouth and the whole digestive system, the upper respiratory system also, as well as the stomach, and also in the heart, and also inside the brain. And we'll be touching more about this as we go through each of the each of the elements that we use for healing. And just to get an idea of, as well as those minerals that we were talking about, as well as each single cell that we have that is the structure of our body, the organs, the organisms that are living inside those structures in the oral cavity. This is a bit mind-blowing, but it's just starting to come to life about the microbiome. Those numbers, 10 to the 11 or 10 to the 12, 10 to the 10 is a billion. So 10 to the 11 is 10 billion. To 100, 10 to the 12 means 100 billion microbes are just living inside our oral cavity. In the skin, there's 10 billion microbes living upon our skin. And then going through each of those areas, the duodenum, the colon, the jejunum, and the stomach, we're looking at huge numbers. Even though the stomach has got a pH balance that's very acidic, 1.5 to 3, it still has 10 to the 7, which would be 100 million. Is that possible? I'm not sure how you say it, but it's 10 with 7 zeros. Thank you.
100 million.
100 million microorganisms living in that acidic environment before we even get to the large intestine and the colon, which has got double that number, 10 with 14 zeros after it, because that's the area in the body where we have the most microbiome that we have yet started talking about. So incredible numbers of other organisms that are living that are also depending on the water that we're drinking. And so our human body, here's all of the different elements that you were talking about, Dada. So our human body is composed of water, and Baba says that also hydrogen, oxygen, and nitrogen are the elements, along with carbon, iron, a little gold, minute quantities of silver, mercury, and a considerable amount of calcium. As our body is a collection of various elements coming from various sources, it is known as kaya in Sanskrit. Kaya means assemblage. So they're all of the different minerals that our body needs in order to be able to assemble, which is like build the structure for all of those cells to live inside of. So that's our bones and all of the different organs that we were talking about. And then let me just tell you this one really quickly. Nope, that one's not relevant. Microbiota move through tan mattress. Ah, waterfalls. Did I ask the question on waterfalls? Let me just double check.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, let me get your answers on waterfalls. Who's got a feeling? Why is it good to sit by a waterfall and do meditation? And this is more a curious question. Yes, please.
Negative ions.
Yep, negative ions. I've heard that. Anybody else? Dara?
Baba said, I can't find it. I used to look for it in yogic treatment. No, and yoga psychology. The sound, the acoustic sound of water falling is ka, which is the vritti. It's the acoustic sound for the vritti of hope, asha in the heart chakra. So I could never find that quotation, but I've read it somewhere in Baba's books. It's quite interesting.
Oh, that is beautiful. Okay, okay. The acoustic root for, and that's the one for ka, yes? For hope. Yeah?
Yeah, asha vritti, yeah.
Oh, that's very good, Dada. Thank you very much. You've just answered a question. Anybody else got any answers for waterfalls? Yes,
I
do you,
live near the
Stephen
There'll be
Day.
lots of prana will be there where the water's falling.
Any reason what prana is? I mean, any
Vital
explanation
energy. It allows you to take in the subtle vital energy
of vital energy of
of the environment, the water, the microbiota, the yeah, and oxygen, I suppose, from the heating and the falling of the water.
right? Okay, okay. So what I understand with my with anybody else on this one on waterfalls?
I live by the waterfall, and it's just soothing and calming energy and feeling when meditating by the
Right.
waterfall. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Beautiful.
It helps to remove depression. People that have lost, hope, or they have this sense of despair, it's very good for their spirit.
Yeah. So definitely all those things are talked about. There are papers written about the ions from water. It's negative ions that from that, foaming water. There's also conversations around, let me just find out what they were. Chronic fatigue. I tell you what was most spoken, what I was most interested in was that it was to do with sound. So Dada, there's something at the moment that there's a conversation about sound, and knowing that that sound is the ka ka ka, the one of hope. My question, which is following on from what Jivan Dave said, is that, well, also there's another reason why physically why microvita can be carried around a waterfall more, and that is because carbon in the carbon atoms that are being taken through the evaporation and sent back up through to the atmosphere. It seems that carbon is something that microvita likes to inhabit, if you like. So Baba says that one carbon atom is made up of millions of microvita. And carbon, there's a whole cycle of carbon that goes through water and air and earth and through our bodies and out into space and back again. So it could be, and I'm not sure yet, that carbon is one of the major carriers for microvita. So in a tumultuous situation such as the waterfall, where there's a lot of evaporation and carbon is being mixed out of water and back into air, there's a chance for there's a lot of exchange for microvita or movement of microvita. The other thing is that sitting by a waterfall, and Ambika, I also live by a waterfall, sitting next to a waterfall and closing eyes to do the sadhana, the first thing that comes to the mind is the sound of the waterfall. And knowing that microvita does not live or exist inside the elements. That's what bacteria does. Microvita or viruses, they use the tanmatra of that element. So in the case of a waterfall, one of the biggest powers of the waterfall is the sense of touch, because the water's splashing and you get a fine mist upon your body. And then there's also the sense of sound. So it may be that what's actually promoting the viruses, if we want to call them virus at this point, but positive viruses that are coming out of the water and in the carbon atoms that are coming against our skin and through the atmosphere, and we're breathing in, the microbiota or the viruses that are carrying on those atoms are carrying through the essence of sound and touch. And so we're getting a double whammy from a waterfall, and hence we're building up with positive viruses or positive microbiota. So thank you for answering all of those questions. And
Kanika, excuse me if I can just interrupt. We have 50 minutes left.
Yeah, I'm going to try and zoom through.
Okay.
Thank you so much. Yes.
What about if for every day you swim in the waterfall next to you? Well, because that's where I live at the farm, and that's where I bathe every day, by a little stream, by the waterfall. What are the benefit on that?
Yeah. So again, I think from my understanding with water, and Baba, he talks a lot about water being good for bathing inside of. So here's the quote from Baba is, odorless tepid water, especially if it's sun warmed, is an excellent medicine for the physical body. It has great healing qualities. So if you're swimming in a natural river or pond, then you'll be getting exactly what Baba's saying. Now, there's a few reasons why sun-warmed water would be good. One of them being that the light is infiltrating the particles of the rays of sunlight, which are full of different colors, and they're getting refracted through the water, which means they're breaking up into rainbows, if you like, underwater. Then that is going to be one effect or impact. You're going to be getting color boosted, as well as warmth, as well as the cleansing impact of water upon your skin. So it has great healing qualities. And since ancient times, knowingly or unknowingly, human beings and different animals have also accepted water as one of our medicines. It's also been said in the Vedas that water is a universal medicine. And we'll just look very quickly at some of the bathing styles. Also, water has a whole evolutionary concept. And Baba talks about water being the beginning of life. And he says, as a result of rain, carbon atoms, and this again links our microbiota back into carbon atoms got infused with vital energy as a result of the rain. So rain, water, and carbon are the ingredients of life, basically. Carbon atoms, along with protoplasmic clash and cohesion, formed this vital energy. So it seems that water and carbon together create the vital energy needed for life. So moving on from that, water bathing, and this is going to answer your question, Ambika. This is in seawater, and we haven't got studies yet on river water or pond water, but there are more viruses in 1 liter of coastal seawater than there are people on Earth. So if you want to get really cozy with a lot of microorganisms, then go jump in the ocean, because in 1 liter of water, there are more microorganisms just there on your skin than there are on the whole population of the planet, of our planet. So I like to start to think of ourselves as a planet, and that microorganisms are like the people that live on a planet. And so if we get the chance to brush up to a whole lot of them, the chances are, and definitely viral studies are showing that there's far more positive than negative microorganisms in our bodies than our whole digestive system. The numbers I just told you of 100 billion organisms just living in your colon, there's a very small amount of those that are not good for us, and a very large amount of those that are helping us. So just very briefly, also Baba did touch on bathing, and I'll just give you for your natural treatments, some of the things that are good about bathing are being at a waterfall. And so being able to sit inside water, especially when it's coming up to your waist, or and having your feet sticking up out of it, and just being in cool water, particularly that's just up to the navel, so that the digestive system is getting that cool or tepid water temperature, as well as all of those microorganisms, as well as the relaxant of it, is very helpful. Now, traditionally in different parts of the world, like in Japan, people like to sit in very, very hot water. In Russia, people like to test themselves with very, very cold water. These things are worth discussing and looking into. My experience of being in Baba's system is not too extreme, is better. Mind you, I have sat in onsens and I have had ice baths in Russia, but just the same. This is more Baba's system. Baba's system is when we're sitting in the bath or sitting in a water system. They're written up inside Yogic Treatments. And also in Charya Part 3, there's systems of how to use rubbing your body with a wet washer or a wet flannel to help stimulate digestion and to help stimulate the skin cells on the body. If you cannot get into cold water, and if your patients, or tepid water, if they're unable to get in and out of the bath, then Baba has written a whole system of how to clean the body, wrap the body with wet towels so that people do not have to be fully immersed in water. And then the bottom one is showing that's a very, what we call, I think, a sitz bath. A sitz bath means that you keep your feet up out of the water, you keep your head up out of the water, and you're just doing basically from between the knees and the, as I said, the waist inside the water. And it's also, I don't think we call it a half bath, but it is another system of
It's more like hip bath.
Thank you very much. Hip bath, Dada.
bath.
Yeah, it's more a hip bath than a half bath. Thank you. I was hoping one of you would jump in and help me with that. There's also other systems as well as cold water on the feet. There's hot water on the feet. There's a number of different ways that we can use water as a natural therapy. Does anybody want to just add to those quickly before we go on into mud?
Well, there are many things that could be added. I mean, we can use it in the form of steam. We can we have cold spinal bath just on the spine, and
Hot foot bath.
Yeah, hot foot bath is there.
Vinegar.
And
vinegar.
there's others as well. For example,
Sorry, Daddy, you're breaking up a little bit.
and this is crucially important. Can you hear me right now?
Yeah,
Ed,
Can you hear
third
me
word.
now?
Maybe turn off your video for a minute while you're talking.
Oh, okay. So it is crucial that we learn major types of water therapy, therapies, and so on that Kanika get into and use them. I have seen that in many cases, our therapists are more dependent on fasting, drinking, and exercise, and less using application mud. Water they are using in terms of steam, hot bath, but we can use these treatments more and more, and they're very effective. Go ahead.
Okay, beautiful. Thank you, Dada. And particularly when using hot baths and a number of the baths that Dada's talking about, and you saw it with the photos of the guys in Japan, Baba does emphasize keeping cold water on the head in the form of a towel. So it's very important to remember that water is a very strong temperature changer. So we must always protect particularly our craniums, make sure that that head doesn't get too hot or too cold in either situation. Okay, I'm going to move on from water then, if that's okay. And let's go on to the next one. And the next one, oh, before I leave water, but I include everything into water, when you are giving treatments with baths and so on, and I saw that this was very much promoted in Cebu, it's really good to bring all the elements in. Let's assume that microvita does exist inside the tan mattress, or the inferences from every element. So whenever we're doing a focus, for example, on water, then also look at the way to make the light subtle, and the sound, so put some gentle music on, and the smell, so put some aromatherapy candles around. If you're not in nature where there's bird calls, etc., then create the environment so that all the different elements come together to help make that that healing modality of maximum healing, maximum soothing. Okay, oh, next one's sex. I thought we were, okay, so Baba's second one is sex. And what Baba says about sex is that people should not taint their sex lives by overindulgence. There's a number of discourses where Baba definitely does not encourage the idea of non-sex being good for people. So he's got a whole system so that we can live our lives with balance. And whereas some religious groups, you know, talk about sex as being something bad, that's not the way that Baba approached our lives. At the same time, everyone should remember that shukra is the ultimate element of our body. And if it's absent or somehow impaired, all the elements of the body may become impaired and invite attacks of various diseases. So what we're going to explore is the shukra in our body, and we'll go through that nice and quickly, because it's not one that you'll have a natural treatment for necessarily, but it is something that it's good to be aware of. So what are the systems described by Baba for the creation of shukra? Now, shukra is lymph, and the final stages of shukra are lymph, spermatozoa, and seminal fluid. And in women, we don't have spermatozoa, but it's the reproductive liquids of our body that relate to ovum and pregnancy and so on. And so why is this described as the ultimate element of the body? And then why is lymph so important for fighting diseases such as leprosy, elephantitis, as described in yogic treatments? So I'll just give you a bit of a rundown on shukra. Shukra is the essence of blood. When transformed, it becomes shukra, going through a whole series of changes. This shukra is food for our brains. In the absence of shukra, or in the case of its impaired functioning, the entire constitution may be impaired. The body may become susceptible to disease, and mental and spiritual sadhana may be impaired. So Baba is encouraging us very much to look after all the systems that lead to this shukra or lymph being produced. Okay, and so here's the answers. Let me just quickly ask people, what do you know about shukra or lymph, and how is it formed in the body? Can anybody just run us through those since you've all graduated? Does anybody know where shukra comes from?
I'll
Yes.
try my best from what I've studied. So it's the nutrition you eat. And when we digest that food, it becomes chyle or rasa. And then it goes through the systems of the body, making blood plasma and blood. And then it goes to the various areas of the body, like the muscle tissue, the bone tissue, the bone marrow, the fats. And then, then it becomes a shukra, which is the reproductive tissues, and it becomes lymph. So I guess if there is an overabundance of sex, you'll be using most of the lymph for the activity, not enough for the brain, and not enough for, basically, again, to have the body take care of itself, the immune system.
Perfect. It is the immune system. So it's got two choices, basically. Lymph can either head towards the immune system, and it can also be used in sadhana, in the pituitary gland, and it can also be used in reproduction. So any one of those being out of balance, Baba talks about that lymph, that shukra needs to leave the body through the reproductive system every 28 days for both men and women. So there's no point in fighting that. But at the same time, there's also no point in overutilizing it in that area, because it's just like anything else in life. If you use it in that area, then you're going to have less of it for your sadhana and for your immune system. And anywhere along the way, if there's a breakdown in the blood, in the fats, in the bone marrow, then it means we won't be producing enough shukra. and therefore our immune systems and our reproductive systems aren't going to be working well. And our sadhana is not going to be very good. Anybody got anything to add to that?
Baba says that chlorophyll helps to produce lymph because it's the sun's energy synthesized by plants. So green plants have lots of chlorophyll, and hence they're very good for production of lymph and in general for brain function.
Beautiful, thanks, Dada. And Jivanesh?
Yeah, I was just about to say the same thing.
Okay, great. All right, so let's move on from that one.
We have about 30 minutes left.
I saw that. So this is going on, talking about the lymphatic system. I'm going to pass that because you've just said, oh, except that when it comes to leprosy and elephantitis, so by the side of the arteries, there's another system of vessels called, and this is the lymphatic system, shukra rabada nari. These vessels, by carrying the most essential element of the body, the shukra, to various parts of the body, maintain the vitality of the nervous system, the cells and the glands, and the immune system. If the person's blood has lost its vigor or become contaminated, then a certain type of microbe starts breeding in it. So what I'm understanding also is that because shukra is not just food for lymph, it also is the actual disease fighting system inside our body. If our shukra is very, very strong, then microbes have less chance to start breeding inside the blood, the nervous system, the digestive system, etc. When these microbes enter the actual immune system and get a chance to settle there, they obstruct the flow of shukra and cause the vessels to swell. And this swelling of the shukra baha nari takes the form of elephantitis. So that's when your lymph glands in the legs get clogged up, and then they start to swell. And I'm not sure if any of you have seen photos of it, but it's very intense. Now, here are some of them viruses that are sitting inside, and they were testing in testes rather than inside women's wombs. But these are just a number of viruses, and these ones are harmful viruses. They're living inside testes because the immune system does not attack foreign bodies in either the testicles or the womb. So hence, viruses like to hang in these places. And that was a very interesting piece of information, I thought. So I just wanted to let everybody know that, again, microvita and viruses are being talked about in every part of our body. But moving on now into mud packs. So what Baba says is earth from a riverside area near a forest in which there is a small amount of sand and a large amount of soil is also an excellent medicine for the physical body. This medicine should be taken bare-bodied on a bed of earth. And we're talking about taking hold of mud, and Baba talks about massaging the mud through the body in some cases, leaving it on the body to dry and then washing it off. And the reason being that skin disease can be the final result of problems inside the digestive system, inside the nervous system, etc., etc. And often it's due to acidity in the body. So one of the first things that we can wonder is if the body's over acidic and hence the skin starting to break, what are the qualities of mud that help to soothe that or ease that? Questions are, what's the difference of application when we're treating cuts and scratches, sores and boils with mud packs compared to skin disease and leprosy? So there's a whole different world there between the cuts and scratches and then things like the skin erupting from inside and leprosy where actually even some of the digits drop off. And then why would the difference in application be necessary? So just to get some feedback on that from all of you. I'm not sure how many of you have used mud. It's certainly something that we do often here because I live by a riverbank I don't know, Ambika, if you go muddy yourself up before you jump into the waterfall. If not, I would highly recommend it. Anybody got experience of mud or want to answer those questions? Why would we treat cuts and sores differently from skin diseases such as eczema or leprosy? Anybody we haven't heard from yet?
Let me give a hint.
Go ahead, Dada.
What is the difference between mud sitting on an open sore and mud sitting on a problem area in which the sore is not open? Remember, the long answer is better than no answer.
Okay, we've got two Didis who haven't been able to answer yet. I can see Grace and Kay Lovegrove, Sumitra, Dada Krishna, Gomati, Jyoti. I'm just saying the names of people who haven't answered questions yet. Dada Mantra Siddhananda, Ganti, Aradhana, no, you already have. And okay, any of you would like to answer this? Ganesh. Yep. Okay, let's go to some of the people who've already answered. Anybody got an answer on this?
I remember when I had a mud bath, and when I applied it in my body and then I let it dry after about half an hour, my like it took out the layer of my skin, and it's like it like it leaves like a new layer, like a new layer of skin left, like it burned a new skin.
Right.
All my freckles, my acne that time was removed. It was like, and it tightens the pores as well.
Right.
That's what I noticed when I do a mud bath.
Okay, really nice. Okay, very well done. Thank you. Anybody else got any clues on that?
Mud is alkaline. So I guess for eruptions, I mean, yeah, like face packs and things like that on open pores and pimples. And so that's an acidic, inflamed opening, and the skin is acidic. So mud being, the Chinese would say it's very cooling and it's alkaline, so it soothes the skin. I guess for conditions like leprosy or more internally deep conditions, you'll have to treat it through nutrition, maybe, sadhana and asanas and just a lifestyle change, but mostly nutrition and probably some natural medicine instead of relying on mud.
Okay, Dada, thank you so much.
I think somehow common sense is saying that something that's closed, okay, it can be extracted, the toxins can be extracted through the mud, but something that's open, a sore or cut, normally we actually clean that a cut, then we apply the the bandage, or we clean with antiseptic. So somehow that doesn't go together with the concept of mud. No. But I don't know more than how it could be explained in a more scientific way.
Thanks, Dada. Okay, anybody else got anything on that one? So curiously, this is curious for me. I'll tell you some things I found recently. Curiously, there is now a discussion that it's very good to put mud directly onto open wounds because it stimulates something of the collagen and gets it stimulated to start to come to the surface, to start to bind or start to create the network. Because once a sore is open, especially any of them, then from the edges, it's almost like a network of new skin or threads there, that they're like threads. They have to be stimulated to start moving, and apparently mud can help with that. There's another thing also, is the sebaceous glands hold bacteria and viruses. So when you put mud on the whole body and let it sit, you're pulling, or you're actually suffocating in some cases, the bacteria and the viruses. And then, as Ambika was saying, you're pulling them out and off the skin when you jump into the water and scrub it all off again. So, and also using river mud, Baba says it's a very good idea to use river mud and massage that through the body. And again, that's stimulating all of the cell pores in the skin. So some people say that toxins come out of the skin in the same way, even more than our kidneys cleanse the body. The skin cleanses the body even more than that. So by stimulating it with dry rubbing as well as wet rubbing with river sands and so on, that helps to create, stimulate, and pull the toxins up to the surface and easily expel them. Dada, hi, you've written us. Some therapists put the mud in a thin, clean cloth and then apply it on the open wound. Very interesting. So would you suggest the same with eczema? So the thing is, what Baba says is with leprosy. Yeah, thank you. Somebody? Okay, Ambika. So what Baba says with leprosy is apply the mud, and he talks about massaging yellow mud onto a patient who has leprosy. In this case, I would, like Dada was saying, I would exercise a lot of common sense. I know that in the West, we don't have a lot of leprosy, but it's a very hidden disease at the moment in India. 35,000 people a year contract leprosy, and because of shame, are hiding that. So it's a very sad situation, and it's one that for those of, and also through Southeast Asia, you might find that there is, that there is more there. So let me just go back to this screenshot.
Excuse me.
Share that.
Can
Yeah.
you hear my voice?
Can't hear you, Dada.
Because my internet cutting off.
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
A little bit.
You can. Okay. When we're about some progressive stuff which is coming in the internet, but our normal system is that if we're applying mud where there's open wound, then we will cover it with an extremely thin cloth so that the mud can still have a great effect in terms of sucking out toxins as well as cooling. These are the two main effects that mud has, and then there are others as well. But I think maybe my voice is not clear. Could you hear what I said?
Yeah, it's a little bit not clear. Hang on, I want to go back.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I heard what you said, that you suggest then to put a very thin cloth, like cheesecloth, over the top of the mud. Is that right, Dada?
That's correct.
Yeah.
And I want
Yeah.
to say that mud is much, much more valuable than most of our, as I had mentioned before regarding water application, mud is even less used by our therapists, and it should be more used. It's really very effective.
Yeah. So I definitely agree. I think because we're so lucky that we live in an environment with a waterfall nearby, we can easily access mud, and we've dug a pond. So definitely I would suggest to everybody to find ways to be able to purchase mud or access mud, or take people to situations where there is mud, like an outing from your wellness centers, and get them nice and dirty. It's lovely. So that's a little bit more. Baba does say that healthy people or people suffering from skin disease should smear their bodies with the yellow soil and massage themselves. So I think that exfoliation, when we massage mud into our bodies, it actually stimulates the sebaceous glands in the skin, which helps to bring circulation and toxins out. So this is some recent writings about soil. As I was saying, this one on the top right-hand side says, we discovered that soil can actually help control bleeding after injury by triggering clotting. So this is something worth researching a little bit more. And then also, these are scientists talking, that these results have a profound effect on the way we view our relationship with our environment. And these are conversations, again, talking that the soil is also full of positive viruses that do things like triggering clotting. viruses that help our skin to become better. So the scientists' next plan includes testing if the response to blood to silicates helps prevent infection from microbes in the soil. So there's in the soil, as in water, some are good and some are not good, and to have them both working. This is just a really quick thing. This is an experiment that I did that was very helpful on an open wound that was too big to knit, and using honey. I don't know how many of you know about this, but honey is incredibly good for sealing wounds, helping to get that thread happening across the wound very quickly. And then I used aloe vera as a bandage on top, because anything that I was trying to put on top of that wound would start again to pull off every time I removed the bandage. So putting aloe vera between the bandage and the sore really helped, and very quickly it healed. Very quickly. This is just honey and aloe vera.
May I ask a question?
Please go ahead.
One of my friends was doing gardening, and she had a flesh-eating bacteria. So isn't that from the soil? She was doing gardening. So how do we prevent that? Since soil is good, but then there is this flesh-eating bacteria.
I haven't met the flesh-eating bacteria yet where I live, but I have heard of people getting infections inside their hands from soil. So generally when I'm gardening, I use gloves, but that's just because I do. My husband doesn't. Some people do, some people don't. Some people like to get their hands dirty, some people don't. I think it might be helpful to find out what's in your local area inside the soil. And then of course, all of these treatments that Baba's giving us is to help us to grow a better immunity so that we're able to be in more balance with our environments. More and more people, more and more the conversations are happening now that instead of giving so much medicine to children, instead of antibiotics and these things, we should be moving further away from those things and getting us more and more into nature, because that's where the healing does happen. But while we're used to living such sterile lives, we will get infected. So I would say one step slowly does it, you know. If you are, So be careful when you're taking on these natural treatments, to do it one slow step at a time and get your body used to, will build back up your microbiomes, basically, in your skin, in your gut. So the same thing with our skin, the same thing with our stomach. Because of antibiotics, a lot of us don't have much microbiome left in our stomachs, and hence we're sick because that's just what's happened to us. And so people now are they're saying, I think I heard data say that farmers, because they eat straight from the soil, they've got a stronger microbiome than normal people, and hence they're more healthy. So it's almost for us to start to learn to live with germs. It seems to me that's the way Bob was talking about microvita as well as everything else, that we learn to live with the physical viruses and then the more subtle ones that impact the way our minds work. Okay, let's move on then from mud and so on and go into the next one. Oh yeah, also at the beach, it's a really good idea, exfoliate with the sand. That's another really beautiful. And now we're moving on into sun. And how much time have I got left?
About 18 minutes to go.
20 minutes, okay. 18, 15, let's say. Sunbathing. So sunlight and air. These are many healing elements in sunlight. The rays or pencils of rays of different colors in sunlight are medicines for different kinds of diseases, preventative and antidotal. So we all know that from doing our our bath mantra, that when we have water drops on our skin, we can actually see, and you can see this on dewdrops on grass in the morning, you can see that the sun rays refract on surfaces into rainbows. And so color is one way that our bodies can heal. And definitely they're finding with viruses that different viruses get impacted by different colors. Where did all this come from? Just a minute. Oh, I've jumped into a whole world of air. There we are. Right. So sun. What does sun exposure stimulate in our bodies? And why does diabetes, rheumatism, cancer, TB, and hepatitis respond well to sunbathing? And how could the different colors of the sun rays impact our health and cure specific diseases? So let me just find out if any of you have got any ideas on how sun works. And I'll just quickly look. I seem to have jumped to the wrong. It doesn't matter. Go ahead. Anybody got any answers on that? Sorry, I think I've gone to old notes rather than new ones, but anybody got any experience of sunbathing that you'd like to share?
Well, not
And
of
why that might be?
sunbathing, but is it like when babies have jaundice, then they go under the ultraviolet light? So the ultraviolet light does something to the cells and they kind of cure them or something.
Yeah, definitely sunlight brings vitamin D, and vitamin D definitely helps with jaundice. There is a natural cure for that. I don't know if any of you know what that would be with a baby who has jaundice. There's in Tibet, I came across this.
Well, we take the baby out in the morning sun and then just expose it to the sunlight for a few minutes a day, and it kind of cures the jaundice.
And Baba talks about massaging with different oils, and I saw in Tibet they were massaging their babies with mustard oil, which is a very strong yellow, thick oil, and they would massage the baby for half an hour in the sun and then take it back inside, warm it up again, take it back outside, and continue to do that over some hours. Anybody else got experience with sunbathing? Why would it be good for hepatitis, diabetes, rheumatism, arthritis, cancer?
I remember I had a headache once. I had a migraine at one time, and nothing was working. I was drinking a lot of water. And I decided to go to the beach and do a sunbathing and just soaking up that sun into my face and my whole body. My headache slowly disappeared.
That's
Yeah.
beautiful. Thanks, Ambika. Great. Anyone with any other experiences on sun? Okay, so
Dogs and cats. Dogs and
Tada?
cats have dogs and cats demonstrate. They lie in the sun whenever they have any uneasiness.
Beautiful.
When as a child, when I had red eyes, my grandmother would tell me to look into the sun for a few seconds, and then the redness would go away.
Yes, the sun's rays are extremely powerful. So there's different times of the day, and depending on where you live, it's good to research that, what time of the day is good. Warming that area makes a huge difference. As soon as you start to warm the area, the sebaceous glands immediately start to respond, so we do start to sweat. So of course, sun is another way to detox the entire body. Baba suggests that always we should only put sun on the back of the body, not the front. But if the disease part of the body is in the front area of the body, then just to cover the rest of the body and just have that diseased area exposed to the sun. And then there's a number of different ways to then massage the body. So one way is to cool the body with a cool towel and rub the skin, and then lie back down again, and do that 3 or 4 times with a little bucket of water next to you, so that each time that you do it, you're rubbing clean water onto the body, cooling the body, again taking the sun, and then again rubbing. The other thing is also to use oils to massage with different diseases. There are certain oils, there's neem oils, almond oils, mustard oils, a lot of different oils that can be used that are helpful for joint pain, different skin diseases, and so on. And the other thing is that viruses, different viruses, it is just now being found that different viruses get impacted by different kinds of light. So putting direct sunlight onto different parts of the body, especially areas like between your toes that never see the sunlight, and different, bits of ourselves that often are hidden inside our clothes and so on, to expose those and allow, particularly, if you've got tenovitis between the toes and so on, and different funguses that are on the feet as well. All of these things can be cured with a mixture of either sun and water, sun and clay, or sun and some plant remedies. Anybody got anything else on sun? Okay, and vitamin D that comes from the sun also, and this is something else that's just being researched at the moment, because putting sunlight directly on the back and the bone marrow of the body can then get stimulated. It may be that sun helps boost our immune system considerably, and this is a paper that's just coming out recently now. This is being explored, that it's not just vitamin D, but it's also the whole immune system that's stimulated by sunshine. Okay, if nobody has anything more on sun, I will continue on into the next one, which is virus and bacteria. We've done that. And the sun's influence. Okay, also from a microbiota point of view, that the sun rays connect, that sunlight itself carries microbiota. This is something that Barbara's talked about a lot. And because we're discovering more and more viruses upon the earth, and a lot of them have come from outer space, it may be that they carry through light itself because they seem to move so quickly. Here Barbara's talking about how they impact the different, in this case, the chakras, this one being the Anahat chakra and the Vishuddha chakra. But also affect the body and the glands, positive and negative microbiota. For the location, okay, tan mattress. So that, again, talking about microbiota moving through the tan mattress. So rather than being part of the heat, they possibly move through light itself. I'm going to move on from that one into taking the air. So Baba says that the pure air of a secluded place is also an excellent medicine for the physical body. This medicine is in the form of air, should be taken through the back of the head and the upper part of the forehead. Now, I wasn't sure quite what that meant about taking the air, except that don't wear a hat or a turban, but actually expose your head when you are out walking. And then Baba talks about the different microbiota of positive air. So the air of the Margosa tree destroys the harmful effects of bacteria. So again, I know that a lot of people are now doing forest walks, and this might be the reason why, that the bacteria can be destroyed by the trees themselves. So the Margosa tree also fights against negative microbiota. This is the reason why Margosa is also recognized as one of the 5 sacred trees. And in olden days, people like to perform spiritual practices sitting in an environment free from the pernicious effects of disease and germs. And hence those different trees were planted. So why is working up a sweat essential for taking the air as a cure? Baba does emphasize that we work up a sweat when we go for walks. Does anybody know what that would be? Anyone who hasn't shared yet? Okay, Jeevan Dave. Yep.
To get the metabolism moving and blood circulating and a little bit of perspiration.
Yes.
Those are what occurred to me about it.
Right. So yeah, sweating, it means that we're going to get those toxins coming out. So all of the different systems, the lymphatic, the circulatory, the blood, the heart, all of the organs get a really good workout when we're sweating, and the toxins are being removed while we do that. The other thing, and it's a very interesting paper that's just come out recently, and that is that when we lose weight through carbon dioxide, actually through breathing. So a guy who lost 22 kilos wanted to understand how that happened. I won't go into details now. I'll post it up on the in the WhatsApp group, but it was fascinating that actually we don't lose weight because of the water that comes out of the body. We lose weight with the carbon that leaves the body, and the carbon comes out through carbon dioxide, which is our breath. So the more you breathe, the more weight you lose. So I don't know if that'll help you when you're detoxing people who have got obesity. Just tell them to breathe more. The best way to breathe more is do more exercise. Anybody else have anything on taking the air?
I think it has to do with You know, because if we're walking, fast walking or jogging, then we're really, really pumping our heart and lungs. So that's extremely helpful for cardiovascular. And then all of those diseases related to that system of the body will be, you know, we could be preventing.
Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing also with more breathing, as well as, you know, pumping the heart, and then that causes us to take more and more oxygen in. I also wonder with that, if that means that we're taking more and more microbes into the body and we're throwing out more and more of other microbes. So depending on how we think as we do it, because our thoughts also affect the way that different microbes live inside of us, if we can invite a whole different microbiome into our lungs and into the whole circulatory system of our bodies. Anybody got anything else on taking the air?
Can you hear what I'm saying?
Go ahead, Dada, and then Ambika.
There are numerous diseases which are the result of excessive carbon dioxide in the blood and not sufficient oxygen. So if we do proper breathing, then this can be remedied. Especially, this is true of headaches, low and high blood pressure. There are many different conditions which are much worsened due to excessive carbon dioxide in the blood.
Interesting. Thanks, Dada. And Ambika?
Yeah, I'm just gonna share that when I remember when I used to practice a lot of hyperventilated deep breath work, like that practice in other healing modalities. This deep breathing, open mouth breathing through the belly. I remember that I eat less during this time. I don't get hungry because the oxygen seems to fills me up. So maybe that's the reason why people lose weight when through breathing.
Curious, thank you. Okay, beautiful. Thanks so much. And moving through those, so pure fresh air has the power to cure diseases. This is Baba saying this. It's advisable to breathe in as fully as possible, because when we do so, the air gets an opportunity to penetrate the lungs completely. It's better to take a walk in the fresh air than to ride a vehicle. If the body doesn't work up a sufficient sweat, then you should know that you have not taken the air properly. And then also, just to be mindful, I won't go into asanas now, but to be mindful that when you're doing your asanas, to exhale fully, so that when you inhale, you've got the vacuum inside yourself to ingest that fresh air. Then fasting, I've just said, this is one of the, it's the fifth point that Baba talks about, is fasting, no, the sixth. So during fasting, the body's organs get a good rest and the healing process is more rapid. It is possible for one to get relief even from chronic skin diseases if one goes on a long fast and drinks plenty of water with lemon juice. So skin disease being the final eruption in the body after a chronic disease is amalgamated, then fasting saying that we can cure basically everything. And then I think this is again talking about shukra. But just inside that, it says, furthermore, as a result of fasting, the poisonous and unnecessary waste of the body gets destroyed and expelled. Moreover, the energy that is not expended in digesting food can be utilized for other purposes. Therefore, a fast day is an excellent time for sadhana.
3 minutes to go.
Thank you so much. How many was that, Dada?
3.
3. Okay, and so we're up to mental purity. In 3 minutes, mental purity helps particularly in keeping a person healthy. Impure thoughts increase the acidity of the blood and invite disorders of the stomach, the heart, and the brain. That is why every human being should make as strong a habit as possible of selfless service and Ishvara Pranidhan, or meditation. Okay, so they are the main the elements that Baba talked about to do with natural treatments. Does anybody have any questions?
There was something in the chat further. Let's just see here.
Okay, let's have a look.
Ambika asked in the training in Cebu that sunbathing is good for skin issues.
Yeah.
Dada replied, yeah, absolutely important for almost all kinds of skin disease, but one should consult the specifications in the appendix of the Yogic Treatment book. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, then I'll hand it back over to, if there's no questions before we finish. Thank you, everybody, very much for joining me on today's talk about natural treatments.
Dada would like to, if you can post the links about the 3 to 4 liters of water per day, maybe in the WhatsApp chat, that would be great. Yeah.
Yeah. There's a couple of things that I spoke about today that I'll put up there.
Okay.
If that's of interest to others. Okay.
Really.
Do we finish with kirtan or?
Yeah, and a huge thanks to Kanika on behalf of everybody who's here and those that are going to listen to the recording. Swift, complete, comprehensive, and very interactive. Well done. Really, really good.
Thank you, everybody. So lovely to be here amongst you all.